age of Rome. You saw the splendor of the pyramids, but now everything is going to burn.
Welcome to the 3rd century, those 100 years of history, which historians call the crisis. Imagine a time where the Roman emperor lived not in his palace, but as a living footstool under the feet of the enemy, where an emperor was assassinated not on the battlefield, but while peeing on the roadside, and where the army carried out the world's first chemical attack on its own people.
In just 50 years, 26 kings sat on the throne, and all of them were killed. Inflation increased so much that people started using garbage instead of money, and the world's most powerful army was forced to surrender to a queen. In today's video, we'll take a bloody journey from 201 AD to 300 AD, where Santa Claus was born, Zero was discovered, and Rome came to the brink of collapse into 50 pieces. Are you ready to endure this madness? Buckle up, because this isn't history, it's a horror movie. Let's start with fact number 1. Mystery number 1. Brother's killer. Geta's murder in mother's arms. After the death of Emperor Severus in 211 AD, his 2 sons Caracalla and Geta became kings. Both hated each other. Caracalla invited Geta to their mother's room under the pretext of peace talks. While Geta was trying to hide in his mother's lap, Caracalla's soldiers stabbed him to death right in his mother's arms. The mother was drenched in blood, but Caracalla did not even allow her to weep. Mystery number 2. Erasing from history. Damnatio Memoriae. After killing his brother, Caracalla ordered Damnatio Memoriae. This meant erase Geta's name from history. All statues of Geta were broken, and his face was melted off from coins. If anyone even took his name, they were sentenced to death. Archaeologists have found coins where Geta's face has been scratched off. Mystery number 3. Citizenship for all, for taxes. Caracalla issued a historic order, Constitutio Antoniniana. Every free man living in the Roman Empire would receive Roman citizenship. This was not generosity. Previously, only citizens had to pay certain taxes. By making everyone a citizen, he actually increased his tax base so he could afford the expenses of his army and palaces. Mystery number 4. Death while urinating. Assassination of Caracalla. Caracalla was a cruel tyrant. In 217 AD, while he stopped by the roadside to urinate, his own guard came from behind and stabbed him. He is perhaps the only emperor in history whose assassination took place during a toilet break. With his death, the decline of the Severan dynasty began. Mystery number 5. Elagabalus, the most colorful emperor. Elagabalus, the Weird. In 218 AD, 14-year-old Elagabalus became emperor. He was a priest from Syria. He brought a black stone with him to Rome and declared that this stone, Elagabal, was now the greatest god of Rome. He removed the statue of Rome's greatest deity, Jupiter, from the temple and placed that black meteorite there instead. The Roman people were stunned to see this. Mystery number 6. Smothered by flowers. Elagabalus loved playing pranks. During a feast, he had tons of flowers, viola, and roses dropped on the guests from the ceiling. It looked beautiful, but the flowers were so many that several guests were buried under them and died of suffocation. The emperor kept laughing while watching this.
Mystery number 7. Gender-fluid emperor, the transgender emperor. Elagabalus preferred to be called Madam. He wore women's clothes, applied makeup, and married a slave, Hierocles, whom he called his husband. Roman historian Cassius Dio wrote that Elagabalus offered doctors a lot of money if they could perform surgery to give him female genitalia. From a modern perspective, he was perhaps the first recorded transgender person in history. Mystery number 8. Dead cats in the lottery. Crazy lottery. Elagabalus used to hold lotteries for the public. The prizes were written on pieces of wood. One person could get 10 camels, while another could get 10 dead flies or dead dogs. His lottery was entirely a game of luck and madness. Eventually, at the age of 18, he was killed and his body was thrown into the river. Mystery number 9. 3 Kingdoms of China. Romance of the Three Kingdoms. From 220 AD in the 3rd century, the Han dynasty in China completely collapsed, and China was divided into 3 large kingdoms, Wei, Shu, and Wu. This was the bloodiest period in Chinese history. Nearly 40 million people were killed, but it was also the golden age of literature. Video games and movies are still made on the stories of this era today. Mystery number 10. Zhuge Liang and the Empty Fort. Empty Fort Strategy. Zhuge Liang, the strategist of the Shu state, was famous for his intelligence. Once he was alone in a fort, and a massive enemy army arrived. Instead of running away, he opened the gates of the fort and sat on top playing a lute, guaqin. The enemy thought it was a trap and fled in fear. This is called the Empty Fort Strategy. Mystery number 11. Rise of Sassanids. 224 AD. In 224 AD, a new power emerged in Persia, Iran, the Sassanids. They defeated the old Parthian Empire and became Rome's most dangerous enemy. They were more disciplined than the Romans. Their goal was to regain the boundaries of the old Persian Empire, Achaemenid, which meant war with Rome. Mystery number 12. Japan's sorceress queen, Queen Himiko. In 3rd century Chinese records, Weiji, there is a mention of Japan, which they called Wa. There ruled an unmarried queen named Himiko, who knew sorcery, shamanism. She lived in a palace with 1,000 women, and only one man, her brother, was allowed inside to give her food. She is the most mysterious ruler in Japan's history. Mystery number 13. 8-foot emperor, Maximinus Thrax. In 335 AD, Maximinus Thrax became emperor. He was the first emperor who never actually visited the city of Rome. He was a shepherd who became a general based on his strength. According to ancient sources, his height was 8 feet, 2.4 meters. He was so strong that he could break a horse's teeth with one punch. He is called the Giant Emperor.
Mystery number 14. 26 emperors in 50 years. Crisis of the 3rd century. From 235 AD to 284 AD, in just 49 years, Rome had 26 official emperors and dozens of pretenders. Out of these, only one emperor died a natural death. The rest were either killed in battle or assassinated by their own soldiers. Becoming an emperor was like signing your own death warrant. Mystery number 15. Rome's 1000th birthday, the Millennium Games in 248 AD. Despite all these troubles, Emperor Philip the Arab celebrated a massive festival in 248 AD to mark 1,000 years from the founding of Rome. In the Colosseum, 1,000 gladiators and hundreds of lions, elephants, and rhinos were killed.
This was Rome's last grand party while the empire was burning outside. Mystery number 16, the first Christian hunt, Dacian persecution, 250 AD. Emperor Dacius ordered that every citizen must offer a sacrifice to the Roman gods and obtain a certificate, a libellus, proving it. Christians refused to perform the sacrifice, and as a result, they were persecuted and killed on an empire-wide scale for the first time. This was the toughest test for Christianity. Mystery number 17, the emperor who sank in a swamp, Battle of Abritus, 251 AD. Emperor Dacius and his son were killed while fighting against the Goths. They got stuck in a swamp, and their bodies were never recovered. This was the first time a Roman emperor was killed in battle by a foreign enemy. Mystery number 18, repeating crossbow, Zhuge Nu. China's Zhuge Liang created a crossbow that was semi-automatic, known as the Zhuge Nu. It could fire 10 arrows in just 15 seconds. It was effectively the machine gun of the 3rd century. Mystery number 19, Martyrdom of Saint Valentine, Legend of Saint Valentine. According to legend, Emperor Claudius II had banned marriages so that soldiers would fight better. A priest named Valentine performed secret weddings for the soldiers. He was caught and beheaded on February 14, 269 AD. Date is disputed. He wrote a letter to the jailer's daughter and signed it, "From your Valentine." Mystery number 20, Plague of Cyprian, 250 AD. Before Rome could even recover from the old plague, a new pandemic arrived, possibly a hemorrhagic fever like Ebola. It was recorded by Saint Cyprian. In the city of Rome, 5,000 people were dying every day. There was no one left to work in the fields, leading to famine. It truly looked like the end of the world. Mystery number 21, the emperor who became a footstool. In 260 AD, Roman Emperor Valerian was captured alive by the Persian king Shapur I during battle. This was the greatest embarrassment in Roman history. Shapur did not kill Valerian. Instead, he made him his slave. Whenever Shapur mounted his horse, he would step on the Roman emperor's back to climb up. Valerian lived as a human footstool. Mystery number 22, stuffed with straw after death. When Valerian died in captivity, the Persians did not perform a funeral. They flayed his skin, stuffed it with straw, and hung it in a temple. This effigy hung there for centuries so that visiting Roman ambassadors could see it and remember the true worth of Rome. Mystery number 23, Rule of the 30 Tyrants. After Valerian's capture, chaos broke out in Rome. Almost every general declared himself emperor. Historians call this the era of the 30 tyrants. Some of these emperors ruled for only 2 days before they were killed by their own soldiers. Rome had become a joke. Mystery number 24, Empire splits in 3. In 260 AD, Rome's central authority became so weak that the empire split into 3 parts: Gallic Empire, West, Britain, France, Spain; Palmyrene Empire, East, Syria, Egypt; and Roman Empire, in the middle, Italy. Did you know? This was the first time Romans were fighting against Romans. It seemed like the end of Rome had arrived. Mystery number 25, Zenobia, the warrior queen. When Rome weakened in the east, Queen Zenobia of the Syrian city Palmyra took command. She broke away from Rome and captured Egypt. She led her army personally on the battlefield and walked for miles on foot. She challenged Rome, saying, "I am the successor of Cleopatra." For a time, she proved to be a major thorn in Rome's side.
Did you know how the greatest library in history turned to ashes? Or that era when Roman emperors started filling coins with trash instead of silver to deceive the public? Welcome to those unheard pages of the 3rd century, where Chinese scholars turned into hippies roaming naked and searching for truth in alcohol. A time when India created iron that would never rust, and China made such magical mirrors that could see through the light. From the falling walls of Rome to the echoes of India's golden age, let's explore those 25 most shocking stories of history, which you probably never read in your textbooks. Number 26. China's 7 Sages of the Bamboo Grove. When the political atmosphere in China became very dangerous and corrupt after the Three Kingdoms period, 7 scholars and poets decided to leave society. They went to live in the forest. They were ancient hippies. They drank wine all day, wrote poems, and often remained naked. They believed that the rules of society are useless and the real truth lies in alcohol and nature. Mystery number 27. Accurate calculation of pi. Liu Hui's pi. In 263 AD, Chinese mathematician Liu Hui discovered a new way to find the value of pi. He created a polygon with 3,072 sides. He calculated the value of pi as 3.1416, which was the most accurate in the world at that time. He did all this without any calculator. Mystery number 28. Father of algebra. In the 3rd century, a mathematician named Diophantus lived in Alexandria. He wrote a book named Arithmetica. He used symbols in mathematics for the first time. The algebra we study today started from here. Although the word algebra was later given by the Arabs, the work belonged to Diophantus. Mystery number 39. Rome's New Walls, Aurelian Walls. For 500 years, there was no wall around the city of Rome because they had no fear of any enemy. But in 271 AD, Emperor Aurelian feared that barbarians could reach Rome. He built a 19-kilometer-long wall around Rome. This wall was proof that Rome is no longer safe. This wall still stands in Rome today. Mystery number 32. Destruction of the Library of Alexandria. We often think the library burned down all at once, but it was destroyed gradually. In 270 to 275 AD, when Aurelian reclaimed the city from Queen Zenobia, a large part of the library, Bruchian district, was destroyed in the battle. In this battle, many original manuscripts, original scrolls of Aristotle and Plato were turned to ashes forever. Mystery number 31. Mani and Manichaeism. In Persia, a prophet named Mani started a new religion, Manichaeism. It was a mixture of Christianity, Buddhism, and Zoroastrianism. This religion spread like wildfire in the 3rd century. It had followers from China to Spain. Mani believed that the world is a battlefield between light, good, and darkness, bad. Later, the Persian king had Mani killed. Mystery number 32. Silver disappears from coins. The silverless coins. By 268 AD, the Roman silver coin, Antonianus, contained only 5% silver. The remaining 95% was copper or iron scrap. To make the coins look like silver, the government coated them with a thin layer, wash, of mercury or silver, which would come off just by touching it. This was the biggest government scam in history. Mystery number 33. Aurelian, restorer of the world, restitutor orbis. Emperor Aurelian ruled for only 5 years, 270 to 275, but he performed a miracle. He reunited the 3 broken empires, Gallic, Palmyrene, and Roman. He received the title Restitutor Orbis, Restorer of the World. If Aurelian hadn't existed, the Roman Empire would have ended in the 3rd century itself. The irony is that his own officials murdered him due to a small misunderstanding. Mystery number 34. Rise of the Sun God, Sol Invictus. Aurelian abandoned traditional Roman gods and made Sol Invictus the main deity. He fixed the birthday of the sun god as December 25th. Later, when Christianity came, they adopted this same date as Christmas so that people could convert easily. Mystery number 35. Saint Anthony and the Desert, First Monks. In Egypt, Saint Anthony decided that cities had become too sinful. He left everything behind and went to live alone in the desert. This is where monasticism began. Thousands of people followed him into the desert and began living in caves. This existed in India earlier, but it started in Christianity in the 3rd century. Mystery number 36. The Iron Pillar. Iron Pillar of Delhi? Although its exact date is debated, many archaeologists believe that the famous Iron Pillar of Delhi belongs to either the Gupta period, 4th century, or that its technology was being developed at the end of the 3rd century. This pillar has been standing under the open sky for 1600 years, but it has not rusted. This is the greatest miracle of ancient Indian metallurgy. Mystery number 37. Japan's clay soldiers, Haniwa figures. In 3rd century Japan, Kofun period, clay statues, Haniwa, began to be buried around the graves of kings. Earlier, when a king died, his servants were buried alive. This practice changed in the 3rd century, and clay statues were placed instead of servants. This was a major reform in human rights. Mystery number 38. Magic mirrors of China. In China, bronze mirrors were created that looked ordinary, but when light was reflected off them, they appeared to become transparent and projected the pattern from the back onto the wall. This is called a light penetration mirror. Even today, scientists do not fully understand how they created this nanostructure in the 3rd century. Mystery number 39. Roots of Gupta Empire. At the end of the 3rd century, 240 to 280 AD, Sri Gupta laid the foundation of the Gupta Empire in India. At that time, it was a small kingdom, but it was destined to become the golden age of India, where science and art would reach their peak. Mystery number 40. Vegetarian lion legend. During the persecution of Christians, a famous story emerged about St. Paul, the hermit. It was said that 2 lions came into the desert, but they did not attack. The lions dug a grave with their paws for St. Anthony so that he could bury St. Paul. Whether this story is true or not, it offered great hope to 3rd century Christians. Mystery number 41. The Tetrarchy. Diocletian's 4 kings. Emperor Diocletian realized that one man could not manage such a vast empire. In 293 AD, he divided the empire into 2 parts, east and west, and appointed 4 kings, 2 seniors, 2 juniors. This was called the Tetrarchy, rule of 4. He decided that power would no longer transfer through blood relations, but through merit. However, as soon as he retired, those 4 fought and died among themselves. Mystery number 42. Price tag with death penalty. Edict on maximum prices, 301 AD. To stop inflation, Diocletian passed a law in 301 AD at the very end of the century. He fixed the price of everything, from wheat to a barber's wages. If a shopkeeper asked more than the fixed price, they faced the death penalty. The result, shopkeepers stopped selling goods altogether, and the entire market collapsed, black market. This was history's first failed economic experiment. Mystery number 45. World's first chemical attack. Chemical warfare at Dura Europus, 256 AD. During excavations in the Syrian city of Dura Europus, the bodies of 19 Roman soldiers were found in a tunnel. They didn't die by the sword. Persian soldiers had burned sulfur and bitumen in the tunnel. The burning created sulfur dioxide gas, which turns lungs into acid. The Roman soldiers suffocated inside the tunnel. This is the first confirmed chemical attack in history with archaeological evidence. Mystery number 44. Birth of the real Santa Claus. Birth of Saint Nicholas, 270 AD. In 270 AD, a child named Nicholas was born in Turkey, Patara. He grew up to be the bishop of Myra. He was famous for his generosity. Legend says he secretly threw gold coins through a window or chimney to pay for the marriages of a poor father's 3 daughters. This Nicholas later became Santa Claus. Mystery number 46. Donkey food. Barley rations. Discipline in the Roman army during the 3rd century was very strict. If a soldier showed cowardice or made a mistake, his wheat ration was cut off. He was given only barley. At that time, barley was only fed to donkeys and mules. Eating animal food in front of the whole unit made the soldier feel ashamed. It reminded them that they hadn't done a human's job. Mystery number 47. The Headless Saint, Saint Denis of Paris. Around 250 AD, Denis, the Bishop of Paris, then called Lutetia, was decapitated. Legend has it that after being beheaded, Denis picked up his severed head and walked for 6 miles with it in his hands, preaching all the while. He is the patron saint of Paris. Mystery number 48. Baths of Caracalla. Emperor Caracalla built the world's 2nd largest bath complex in Rome. It opened in 216 AD. It could accommodate 1,600 people at once. It wasn't just a bathroom. It contained a gym, library, shops, and art galleries. It was Rome's country club where even the poorest man could go for free so that he would love the emperor. Mystery number 49. Queen Zenobia's golden chains. When Emperor Aurelian defeated the rebel Queen Zenobia, she was brought to Rome. She was paraded through the streets in Aurelian's victory parade, triumph. She was bound in golden chains. The chains were so heavy that she had to use the help of servants to lift them. However, later Aurelian forgave her, and she lived in Rome like a wealthy woman. Mystery number 50. Emperor is now God. From princeps to dominate. Before the 3rd century, emperors called themselves first citizen, princeps, but Diocletian changed this. He began to have himself called Dominus Deus, Lord and God. Now no one could look into the emperor's eyes. People had to lie on the ground before him and kiss his shoes, which were studded with diamonds. This was the beginning of absolutism. Mystery number 50. Rise of the Mayan civilization. Mayan Classic period, 250 AD. While Rome was burning, in another corner of the world, Mexico, Guatemala, the Mayan civilization was entering its golden age, Classic period. Around this time, they began building their massive stone cities and pyramids and developed their calendar, the same calendar that made people think the world would end in 2012. Mystery number 51. Rise of the Mayan civilization. Mayan Classic period, 250 AD. While Rome was burning, in another corner of the world, Mexico, Guatemala, the Mayan civilization was entering its golden age, Classic period. Around this time, they began building their massive stone cities and pyramids and developed their calendar, the same calendar that made people think the world would end in 2012. 217 AD. Rome's pride, the Colosseum, was being reduced to ashes by flames falling from the sky. While the West was burning, in the East, India was writing the future of the world by discovering zero. In China, there was a war of inventions, and in Britain, history's first Brexit. A world where chocolate was money and veganism a new revolution. From the crumbling empire of concrete to the immortal art of a junta, welcome to the most unique journey of the 3rd century. Let's find out what happened when history changed. Secret number 51. The magical novel, The Golden Ass. In this century, or at the end of the 2nd, Apuleius's book, The Golden Ass, was very famous. It is the only Latin novel to survive in its entirety. The story is about a man who accidentally turns into a donkey through magic. It was the Harry Potter of its time, full of magic, comedy, and adventure. Secret number 52. Romans adopt pants. We saw earlier that Romans hated trousers, pants. But in the 3rd century, due to cold and war, soldiers finally started wearing brocchi, wool pants. This fashion started with soldiers and gradually reached the common people. While defeating the barbarians, Romans themselves began wearing clothes like barbarians. Secret number 53. Aksumite currency. The Aksumite Empire of Ethiopia became a global superpower in the 3rd century. They controlled the trade between Rome and India. They were the first empire in sub-Saharan Africa to mint their own coins. Later, in the 4th century, they became the first country in the world to put a cross symbol on coins. Secret number 54. The oldest church, Dura Europus Church. The world's oldest surviving church has been found in Dura Europus, the same city of the chemical attack, dating to approximately 233 AD. It was an ordinary house that was converted into a church. At that time, churches were not large buildings. Christians met secretly in homes. Paintings of Jesus Christ have been found on the walls, depicting him as the Good Shepherd. Secret number 55. Tax torture. During the crisis of the 3rd century, taxes were heavily increased to pay the army. If a farmer couldn't pay the tax, he was whipped or thrown into jail. Conditions were so bad that thousands of farmers left their land, fled to the forests, and became bandits. Cities began to empty out. Secret number 56. Plotinus and the soul, Neoplatonism. In the 3rd century, the philosopher Plotinus started Neoplatonism. He believed that the human goal is to merge into the One, the Supreme Being. His ideology later greatly influenced Christianity and Islamic Sufism. He believed in states similar to meditation. Secret number 57. Ban on gladiatrix. Although female gladiators, gladiatrix, were few, they did exist. Emperor Septimius Severus passed a law in 200 AD that banned women from fighting. He felt that when noble women fought in the arena, it made a mockery of society. However, it secretly continued anyway. Secret number 58. Rome's fire went out. Vestal Virgins fire. The Vestal Virgins, priestesses, kept a sacred fire burning in the Roman Forum. It was believed that if this fire went out, Rome would end. During the crisis of the 3rd century, this fire came to the verge of extinguishing several times due to lack of care. This was a very bad omen for the people of Rome. Secret number 59. Gothic invasions. In the 3rd century, the Germanic tribe Goths launched boats into the Black Sea for the first time and began looting Roman cities. They weren't just land-based looters, they became pirates. They looted and burned the great temple of Artemis at Ephesus, one of the 7 wonders of the world. Secret number 60. Unity at a cost. At the end of the 3rd century, 284 AD, Diocletian ended the chaos and established peace. But this was not the old free Rome. Now every person's profession, job, was fixed. If a father was a farmer, the son had to become a farmer. He turned society into a prison so the system could keep running. This is considered the beginning of serfdom. Secret number 61. Lightning strikes Colosseum in 217 AD. In 217 AD, a terrible storm occurred and lightning struck the Colosseum. Since the upper part and seats of the Colosseum were made of wood, a massive fire broke out. The fire was so devastating that it took 20 years to repair the Colosseum. During this time, gladiator fights had to be shifted to other stadiums. Romans believed that the gods were angry with Rome.
Secret number 62. The oldest evidence of zero. Bakhshali manuscript. The Bakhshali manuscript, a mathematical text written on birch bark found in Pakistan, then India, has been carbon dated to the 3rd, 4th century. In this, zero is depicted as a dot. This is the oldest physical evidence of the use of zero in the world. While Rome was burning, India was pulling centuries ahead of the world in mathematics. Secret number 63. Invention of the wheelbarrow. Around 230 AD, the great Chinese strategist Zhuge Liang created wooden oxen to carry supplies for the army. This was the world's first wheelbarrow. It was invented in Europe 1,000 years later. With Zhuge Liang's machine, one soldier could easily pull the food for 4 soldiers alone, which greatly benefited their army. Secret number 64. Rome's Brexit. The Breton Empire, 286 AD. During the crisis of the 3rd century, a Roman naval commander named Caracalla declared himself the Emperor of Britain and separated Britain from Rome. This can be called the first Brexit of history. He ruled Britain for 7 years and issued his own coins inscribed with Restorer of Britain. He was later killed by his own minister. Secret number 65. The sword changed from gladius to spatha. For centuries, Roman soldiers used the short sword gladius, which was used for stabbing. In the 3rd century, they abandoned it for the long sword spatha. The spatha was originally a Celtic/Germanic sword used for slashing. This change shows that the Roman army was now fighting less on foot and more on horseback. This same spatha later became the sword of medieval knights. Secret number 66. First use of the word Pope. Today, we call the Bishop of Rome the Pope, but historically, this title was first used by Bishop Heraclius of Alexandria in 232 AD. The word Papa means father. The Bishop of Rome began adopting this title much later. Secret number 68. The Senate of Women. Emperor Elagabalus' mother and grandmother, Julia Soaemius and Julia Maesa, were so powerful that they participated in Roman Senate meetings. They even established a women's Senate, Synoculum, which decided what clothes women should wear and what their rank in society would be. Women never had this much power in Roman history. Secret number 69. Chocolate used as money. Mayan currency. In the 3rd century, the Maya civilization, classic Maya, began using cocoa beans as a form of currency. People used to drink their money. Rich people made a spicy drink from cocoa. If you had cocoa beans, you could buy rabbits or clothes from the market. Money actually grew on trees. Secret number 70. The secret of Roman concrete was lost. Decline of concrete. The Roman concrete made in the 1st and 2nd century was magnificent, but during the crisis of the 3rd century, there was a shortage of good materials and skilled craftsmen. The quality of concrete in the buildings of this era declined, and people began stealing stones and bricks from old buildings, spolia, to build new ones. Technology was regressing. Secret number 71. Marriage of soldiers. Marriage ban lifted. Emperor Septimus Severus, late 2nd, early 3rd century, changed a major rule. He allowed soldiers to get married. Before this, Roman soldiers could not marry until they retired after 25 years of service. After this rule changed, soldiers began living in houses with their families instead of barracks, which slightly weakened the discipline of the army. Secret number 72. Manhattan of the desert. Tall buildings began to be built on the camel caravan routes in the Arabian Peninsula. The foundations of some cities in Yemen were strengthened during this era. Though the mud skyscrapers are from a later period, trade flourished at this time. Trade between Rome and India created a new class of wealthy people in the Arabian desert who became billionaires just by selling frankincense. Secret number 73. The vegetarian philosopher. Porphyry the vegan. The 3rd century philosopher Porphyry wrote a book on abstaining from animal food. He argued that animals also have souls and killing them is wrong. This is one of the first major books on animal rights and vegetarianism in the Western world. The vegan movement existed even 1800 years ago. Secret number 74. Treasure of trash. Oxyrhynchus papyri. In the Egyptian city of Oxyrhynchus, people used to throw their old papers, papyrus, into trash heaps. A lot of 3rd century trash accumulated there. The dry sand of the desert preserved that trash. Today, from that trash, we have found ancient poems, early pages of the Bible, and private letters. Someone's trash is a historical treasure today. Secret number 75. The Internet of the 3rd century. Cursus Publicus crisis. The Roman postal service, Cursus Publicus, almost came to a standstill in the 3rd century. Horses and carriages were seized by soldiers. The flow of information stopped. One city wouldn't even know that a new emperor had been appointed in Rome. Sometimes people had to work under the name of an old, dead emperor for up to 2 years. Secret number 76. The Vakataka dynasty. In the mid-3rd century, 250 AD, the Vakataka dynasty rose in the Deccan region of India. This was the dynasty whose kings later patronized the world-famous paintings and sculptures of the Ajanta caves. The foundation of Indian art was being strengthened here.
History bears witness when the system breaks down, people sell their freedom. A time where gold turned to dust and soldiers burning in iron ovens took over the empire. Where kings abdicated to grow cabbages and the alchemists' books were burned. The bloody game is about to end, but will Rome still be Rome? Or just a tyrannical memory? Get ready. This is going to be our last video lesson because Christianity is about to rise.
Secret number 76. Red Sea Pirates. Taking advantage of Rome's weakness, pirates became very active in the Red Sea. They would loot spice ships coming from India. To deal with this, merchants began hiring archers on their ships. This marked the beginning of private security in the merchant navy. Secret number 77. Excluded from command. Senate's power ends. Emperor Gallienus passed a law in 260 AD that prohibited senators from leading the army. This was a massive shift. Previously, the politician was the general. Now, the soldier became the general. This turned Rome into a military state where educated leaders were replaced by uneducated but powerful soldiers. Secret number 78. Secret Christian symbol, Chi Rho symbol. By the end of the 3rd century, Christians began using a secret symbol, Chi Rho. It was formed by combining the first 2 letters, X and P, of the Greek word Christos. This symbol was later painted on Roman shields during the time of Constantine, but its origins lie in the underground churches, catacombs of the 3rd century. Secret number 81. Fake gold, alchemy's rise. In Egypt, which was part of Rome, alchemists were trying to make cheap metals look like gold. Emperor Diocletian feared that if they succeeded, the value of gold would plummet and people would rebel. In 296 AD, he ordered the burning of all books on alchemy. Because of this, much of the knowledge of ancient chemistry was lost. Secret number 80. Conclusion of the century. End of part 4. By 280 AD, Rome was breathing again, but it was a changed Rome. People were no longer citizens, but subjects. Freedom had been replaced by security. The 3rd century taught the world that when a system fails, humans often trade their freedom for their safety. Secret number 81. Diocletian's cabbages, the gourd-loving emperor. Emperor Diocletian was the first and only Roman emperor in history to retire voluntarily in 305 AD, though planned at the end of the 3rd century. He went to his farm to practice agriculture. When people pleaded with him to return and take over the government, he replied, "If you could see the cabbages I have grown, you would never ask me to go back to that dirty politics." He loved his cabbages more than power. Secret number 82. Roman nanotechnology, the Lycurgus cup. In the 3rd or early 4th century, Romans created a glass cup that changed color depending on the light. If lit from the front, it appeared green. If lit from behind, it appeared red. In 1990, scientists looked at it under a microscope and were stunned. The Romans had infused the glass with nanoparticles of gold and silver. They were using nanotechnology, and we only found out 1,600 years later. Secret number 83. China reunited. End of 3 kingdoms, 280 AD. After 60 years of bloody warfare and the deaths of millions, the Jin dynasty reunited China in 280 AD. The first line of the famous novel, Romance of the 3 Kingdoms, is, "The empire, long divided, must unite." This prophecy came true in 280 AD. Secret number 84. The birth of books. Scroll to codex. For centuries, people wrote on long scrolls which were difficult to read. In the 3rd century, Christians began stacking pages on top of each other and sewing them together. This was called a codex. This was the ancestor of the modern book. In a codex, you could easily flip pages. By 300 AD, Bibles and law books had transitioned from scrolls to codices. Secret number 85. Saint George and the Dragon? Legend of Saint George. Saint George was a Roman soldier in Diocletian's army at the end of the 3rd century. He refused to kill Christians. Although the dragon-slaying story was added 800 years later, the real George faced the dragon of evil, the emperor's orders, and was martyred in 303 AD. He remains the patron saint of many countries, including England. Secret number 86. India's Shakespeare. Basa, the playwright. In the 3rd century, estimated, a great playwright named Basa lived in India. Even before Kalidasa, he wrote Sanskrit plays like Swapnavasavadatana. His plays were considered lost until the 20th century, when an old manuscript was discovered in Kerala in 1912. He broke the rules of Indian dramaturgy by writing tragedy scenes in his plays. Secret number 87. Roman tanks. The Clinabanari cavalry. After suffering defeats at the hands of the Persians, the Romans changed their army. They created a cavalry unit called Clinabanari. In this, both the horse and the rider were covered from head to toe in iron armor, chainmail. These were ancient tanks. When they moved, the clanking of iron alone terrified the enemy. In the summer, they heated up like an oven. The word Clinabanarius itself means oven man. Secret number 88. Ban on purple. Only emperors wear purple. At the end of the 3rd century, Diocletian made a rule that only the emperor could wear Tyrian purple. If a common man was caught wearing purple silk, it was considered treason and punished by death. Color was no longer just fashion, it was power. Secret number 89. Persian propaganda. Naqsh-e-Rustam. On the rocks of Iran, Naqsh-e-Rustam, Persian kings commissioned massive carvings. These show Roman emperors Valerian and Philip kneeling and begging for mercy. This was the largest political poster of the ancient world. Anyone passing by would know that Rome is no longer the boss, Persia is the boss. Secret number 90. 10th part punishment. Decimation. In the 3rd century, Saint Maurice and his Theban legion refused to kill Christians. As punishment, the entire unit underwent decimation. This meant every 10th soldier would be killed. This process was repeated until the entire legion, 6,000 plus soldiers, was eliminated. Secret number 91. Return to barter system. In the 3rd century, the value of money, coins, fell so low that even the Roman government stopped accepting cash for taxes. They took grain, clothes, or animals as tax. The world's most advanced economy went back 1,000 years, and people returned to exchanging goods for goods. Barter system. Secret number 92. Towards one God. Solar monotheism. Apart from Christianity, 3rd century Romans were gradually leaving behind many gods to believe in one supreme deity, Sol Invictus, the sun. This paved the way for Christianity. People's mindset was already prepared for one God, monotheism. Only the name was left to be changed. Secret number 93. Roman army tattoo or military mark. At the end of the 3rd century, to prevent new recruits from deserting, a permanent mark or tattoo or stigma was tattooed on their arm or hand. This mark was often the emperor's name. It was like branding animals, showing that the soldier was now the property of the government. Secret number 94. Cage cups, diatrata. 3rd century Roman artisans began making cage cups. These consisted of a glass cup encased in a glass mesh connected to the cup by only a few thin stems. This work was so delicate that even today it is nearly impossible to make without a laser. How Romans made it with a chisel and hammer remains a mystery. Secret number 95. Wedding rings, betrothal rings. In the 3rd century, the trend of using gold rings for marriage became firm among Christians and Romans. Bishops considered it a symbol of the marriage promise. Previously, it was made of iron, but wealthy 3rd century Christians changed it to gold. Diamonds came much later. Secret number 96. The original Romans are gone. Citizenship diluted. After everyone was granted citizenship in 212 AD and constant civil wars, the concept of original Roman blood vanished. By the end of the 3rd century, the emperors of Rome were not from Italy. They were from Africa, Severus, Syria, Elagabalus, or the Balkans, Diocletian. Rome was now a global empire, not an Italian one. Secret number 97. The Huns are moving. In the 3rd century, nomads living north of China, the Xiongnu, began moving west. These people later became the Huns. Their displacement, migration, was a domino effect. When they fled, they pushed the Germans, and the Germans attacked Rome. This movement, starting in the 3rd century, would end Rome in the 5th century. Secret number 98. End of the secret police. End of Frumentari. We read about the Frumentari in the 2nd century. By the end of the 3rd century, they had become so corrupt that people hated them. Diocletian shut down this institution. But don't celebrate yet. He replaced them with a new organization called Agents in Rebus, which was even more dangerous. Spying never stopped, only the name changed. Secret number 99. Alexandria Lighthouse. Lighthouse damage. One of the 7 wonders of the world, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, Pharos, was still standing in the 3rd century, but it began to weaken due to lack of maintenance and earthquakes. Pictures of it are found on 3rd century coins, which were perhaps its last glimpses. After this, it gradually turned into ruins. Secret number 100. Conclusion of the century. The end of the crisis. By the year 300 AD, Rome had survived, but it had changed. The drama of democracy was over, and open dictatorship, dominate, had begun. The 3rd century taught the world that the price of order is liberty. People laid their freedom at the feet of the emperor for the sake of peace.